Coaches, if you do not know this term, you are doing your athletes a disservice. Every single industry besides youth sports is continuing to evolve and adapt. Whether that's our smartphones, we no longer use flip phones. Whether it's streaming, we no longer go to Blockbuster, or artificial intelligence, right? We no longer, when we can Google things, right, there is artificial intelligence helping us with that search. And that is why we need to know this term to be a modern coach and actually coach players that isn't a scientifically proven and backed way. And I'll share more about the scientific side of things, or actually where you can find it, because I'm really not that smart. But what I can tell you is you need to know what perception action coupling is. And before I dive into what it is, I'm going to talk about what it's not. And that's the current dominant approach. And I'm going to really use basketball. So if you're a different type of coach, soccer, baseball, whatever it is, there is still research and this is still applicable. I'm just not in that world. So for you, the basketball coach or coach who wants to learn through basketball, the traditional training, if we're going to teach a crossover, is taught on a cone. Now that is an action, right? The crossover is the action. A shot is an action, right? A jump shot, right? A layup is an action. Now the problem is, a lot of times we are teaching these skills, and you can even be teaching your team skills, your patterns, without any defense. And again, that's an action. Now, perception action coupling is, number one, when we're in a game, right, 5-on-5 basketball, we have to perceive our environment, right? Who is guarding me? What defense are they in? Those are just two of the things, right? As far as our perception goes, is a 5'3" person guarding me, or is a 6'5" person guarding me? Is this person really fast? Is this person really slow? Now, when we work on crossovers on a cone, when we work on shooting with our defenders, we do not practice our perception action skills. Now, I'm going to debunk a myth. There is a myth that if you work on moves and if you work on, right, a crossover on the cone, that will then translate to a game. Now, that is a myth. And if you go look at certain studies, and if you go to Transforming Basketball, they have all the studies. They've shown it all. Our brains we cannot do skills and then input it in the game. Like, that muscle memory is not a thing, because you're not in a game, you're not going on a cone. So it does not translate over. Now, if you do it over and over and over again after hours and hours and hours, will you eventually get better once you start playing? Yes, eventually your muscles from that crossover will translate over. Now, my big thing is you probably only have 90 minutes to 2 hours to practice. So why are we going to do things that take longer to get results, when in reality, if we ran everything through perception action coupling, did everything with defense, everything with decisions, our athletes would be significantly better decision makers. They'd be better handling the basketball, better handling pressure, better passing through pressure. If you do things without defenders, it's going to take time for them to improve, like with defenders. And we can go on and on about this, but I really want you to understand perception action coupling. Small-sided games are great. There is a ton of research. Transforming Basketball is going to be your number one resource for this. I am just passionate about sharing this with as many coaches as I can, because this is the future of sport. Alex Sarama, the founder of Transforming Basketball, is now the player development coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And as of me recording this right now, they are 9-0 with a first-time head coach. Yes, they have great talent. They have Donovan Mitchell. They have Darius Garland. They have Evan Mobley. They have Jarrett Jack. Last year, they were, 4 or 5, right? They weren't the top dogs like the Celtics. The reason is because they are starting to utilize the CLA, which is a constraint-led approach, which is based on perception action coupling, which I need you to understand. This is the way sport is going. So you can either adapt as a coach, or you can be left behind and be that grumpy, grouchy coach who still does the same thing that you did in the 1980s when you played college basketball. I do not coach anywhere near what my high school, my youth basketball experience was, because I've adapted, right? At first I did, of course. I coached how I knew. And I had great coaches too. I don't want to say anything about those coaches. The times have evolved. We don't use flip phones anymore. We don't go to Blockbuster anymore. Our medical advancement is significantly greater than it was in the 1950s. So why are we coaching basketball and sports in the same way? That's the question I'm going to leave you with. Coach Furtado, BTG basketball. I'm a high school basketball coach. This is what I do for a living. I research coaching, I research basketball, and I apply it. Now, am I perfect? No, I'm still learning so much every day, and there's so much you can do with the constraint-led approach. It's like unbelievable. I've seen unbelievable results from my